Good morning, Paul. It's Wednesday, November 16th. Here's the heads up brief for today.
Okay, Butte, go ahead with it.
So, Paul, in Indonesia, labor unions will protest in Bandung tomorrow over the minimum wage issue. Authorities are going to announce the minimum wages soon, and if it's anything as last year, then we'll see protests over the coming months.
Okay, thanks.
Also in Indonesia, Paul, now this is interesting because Detachment 88, the police's anti-terrorism unit, arrested two BRIMOB personnel in the Lampung police for allegedly supplying weapons and ammunition to terrorists.
Yeah, look, that's a real concern, mate. Lampung's always been a real hotspot for terrorism in Indonesia, and notably, it's at the southern end of Sumatra, whereas most people associate central and eastern Java with such shenanigans. Densus 88's a world-class anti-terrorism force. It's the one bastion of strength in the country. And this is a very, very concerning twist, especially given the high of the piece. We know the high-profile problems with corruption and greed amongst the police in what are very public cases, and this is another case in point of great shame for a country that just will not jump on this. Go ahead.
Right, Paul. Paul, in Thailand, pro-democracy groups said that they will protest at the designated protest site in Bangkok, opposite City Hall, from today until November 18th. So in recent protests, there haven't been more than a dozen people turning up. A recent protest had a theme of the protesters dressing up as movie characters, turning up with placards. And now one of the protests that they want to organize will have tuk-tuks at the protest site opposite City Hall. So it doesn't seem to be causing any disruptions.
Okay, it's really just very low profile stuff, mate, given the upcoming election and the changing constitution. I think what's going on at the APEC protests is barely relevant to clients, mate.
Yeah, noted, Paul. So, Paul, we discussed this yesterday, but there's been violence this morning in Dili in Timor-Leste after security forces attempted to disperse protesters protesting against the government spending funds unnecessarily.
Yeah, look, it's of great concern. Again, just poor leadership by the government, doing everything it can to help us as individuals, the students, particularly against this government announcement, but also their ongoing clashes against the police indicate a lack of respect for the police. There's an old joke in Timor, why do students throw stones against the police? And the answer's because they're the police. And that kind of undercurrent is of grave concern. Dili, for the best part of the last 10 years, even through major elections, has been calm. But this ongoing protest is all postured over buying some cars and computers for government officials. And they continue to buy more computers and more cars and make a high profile about it, whilst development in the country is very slow, and there's all kinds of stories of kickbacks. So again, obviously I saw your alerts out on that this morning, very good, but we just need to keep watching that closely, and the feeds we got from our guy in the field were exceptional, so pass that on to him. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely, Paul will do that. Paul, moving over to South Asia. So Imran Khan's protests continue in Pakistan. It's been going slow, but the tensions are still high, and they're going to reach Rawalpindi and Islamabad over the next few days if they're on track.
Okay, it'll be interesting to see if there are clashes prior to getting to those major urban centres. It's actually been more peaceful than I would have anticipated. So, yep, just keep a close eye. Thanks.
Yeah, definitely, Paul. Paul, in India, there was a clash between armed separatists and the military in Assam in India's northeast. This is a volatile and restive region where there's a lot of insurgency. Lastly, in
Yeah,
South,
look, sorry, just on that, I'd like to just hone in, not now, but when you get a moment, just like to know if we know which separatist it was. Obviously, the separatist landscape there is very complex.
yeah,
So a little bit more info when it comes to light would be very useful just to help me monitor
yeah.
what potential separatists are growing and active there.
Paul, it was the United Liberation Front of Assam. I'll give you more details on them later.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Cheers.
Lastly, in South Asia, Paul, there was the opposition is increasing calls for general elections by March next year because the government hasn't been voted in, and there's a lot of protests still ongoing in the
You're
country.
talking about Sri Lanka, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Paul, moving over to the Europe, Middle East, and Africa. In France, the state-subsidized fuel discounts ended yesterday. This was put in place in April due to the rising inflation and cost of living crisis. It's cost the government over $7 billion so far.
It'll be interesting to see if any unrest comes out on that. And listen, let's have a separate talk about Poland, if we may, on another call.
Yeah, sure, Paul. So this is the heads up brief for today. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. Cheerio.